She's going to talk to us today about her experiences and her ongoing lawsuit against the city of Tucson, as well as how becoming a licensed cognitive behavioral therapist has helped her with this.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. This is a nice thing that we're doing between congregations. I'm a worship associate and a music volunteer at the UU Church on 22nd Street. And we decided we need to get out and get to know everybody better. So we're sharing not only our ministers to do sermons, we're also sharing the people that we usually have do lay-led speaking. And so some of your people are coming to us, and Green Valley and Sierra Vista, and we're coming here to you. So I'm very happy to be here. And since we're a congregation that sounds like that tells jokes, I'd like to tell a little firefighter joke. Okay, so a woman's going to have a baby, and her husband was rushing her to the hospital, but they're not going to make it. So they pull over to the side of the road and they call the fire department. The fire department shows up, and the woman has twin baby boys. And there's this big mix-up, and somehow in one ambulance the mother goes with the father, and the other ambulance the two babies go to the hospital. So when the parents get to the hospital, a firefighter greets them and says, "Oh, hey, we're sorry about that mix-up, and while we were here I had to name your babies." And they were like, "Oh, well, okay. What did you name them?" "Well, the first one I named Jose." And they were like, "Oh, that's a good name. That's good. What did you name the second one?" "Hose B." Okay. So, as Lisa said, I grew up in Sierra Vista. In 1988, I got my bachelor's in psychology from the University of Arizona. And in 1989, I became the first female firefighter in Sierra Vista. And then in 1990, I was hired by Tucson Fire Department. They were actually recruiting women because of the class action lawsuit where they had to kind of make the numbers more even. By 1998, I was a hazardous materials technician, a paramedic, an engineer, which is very rare to have all those certifications. I had an associate's degree in fire science and paramedicine, and I was the only female fire engineer, which means I drove the trucks. And I actually drove Ladder 1, which is a platform aerial. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's the most awesome truck that there is. It's got a bucket on the front so that you can go up, and ventilate or rescue people. And it has a pump also, so you can actually make your own water supply. So we went to all the fires. But by the age of 32, I had high blood pressure, I had a bad thyroid, and I had post-traumatic stress disorder. Not from the calls that I went on, although I had been in fires. I'd actually had a second-degree burn from a fire. I'd been to chemical leaks and shootings and delivered babies. Actually, paramedics don't deliver the babies, the mothers do. We just catch them and keep them from falling on the floor because they're slippery. But I would not participate in the traditions of the fire department. One was if we went out to a campfire in wintertime that the homeless people were trying to use to keep warm. But one of the traditions was to pull a hose line out and wet the homeless person down, which could kill them because it was wintertime. I refused to do that and was threatened with insubordination. Waterboarding became a way to initiate new recruits. So tying people up and putting them in the shower under the water. There were many other traditions that I did not agree with and I openly spoke out about. I I tended to be the only one to tend to gay and transgender patients. There's no openly gay men on the fire department. The last one had to eat separately from plates. So I spoke out against these things and I became a lightning rod. I was told I couldn't do the job. I was taking a man's job. The men and women had to share the restroom facilities and showers. So you can imagine the chaos there. I was accidentally walked in on multiple times. I tried to solve these things through the chain of command, through our city EEO, but nothing was ever done. And the message to the people on the fire department was, go ahead. Things started to take what I felt was a dangerous turn. Signs started showing up at the station with explicit profanity directed at me. One of the other women working at the station with me found an email saying that they were going to hunt me with pit bulls and that I was a dreaded beast. So in 2005, I filed a lawsuit and I took 8 months off because I felt like I was in danger and my blood pressure was out of control. I felt like, who can I trust? Can I trust these people to take care of me if I go to a fire? They were already kind of backing away when we had to lift heavy patients. Good thing I was strong. So Judge Roll, who you might know was the judge that was shot and killed at the Gabby Giffords event, he was the judge that said my case should be heard by a jury. Legally, that's what he found. But then he was killed, and the case went to a judge named Judge Tashima. So finally in 2012, after many years of waiting, the case went to trial. And I had two cases actually. I had one for sexual harassment and one for retaliation. Well, the jury gave me a win on the sexual harassment, and I did not win the retaliation. A week later, my attorney called me and told me that Judge Tashima had reversed the jury's decision. So that meant I had to take this to the Ninth Circuit Court, which I did. Finally, this year, the Ninth Circuit Court reinstated the jury's decision. So, you might be asking, where is the justice? Well, I had lost a job I loved. I'd lost an identity I loved. I'll be lucky when this all resolves if I even break even with the attorney fees that I've paid. They still haven't made any changes, as far as I know, on our fire department. Jonathan Rothschild, who's the mayor, it's his law firm that defends these cases. So I've come to the conclusion they don't want to fix this problem. So now I want to talk about all the good things that have come from this. When I was doing that 8-month time off, I'd gone back to school to get my master's in counseling. So I did my internship during that time. I was very isolated. People don't tend to understand this kind of stuff. Actually, I was amazed to find a whole community of people that did understand it and believed me and trusted what I was saying. So I started reaching out to other people. I was very isolated. I started playing my trumpet again. I hadn't played it in 25 years. And I started doing that at the UU church. I started to learn more about UUs. All I knew was I'd go to this place and play my music, and people were really nice to me. I kept quiet about what was happening to me. I didn't really feel like I could really trust anybody, but as I got to know more and more the people in my congregation, I started to see that I really could trust you with my story. UUs got it and understood. They wanted to help me. Also, becoming a cognitive behavioral therapist helped me work with my thinking and realizing I could choose what I wanted to believe about my situation. I could keep my pity party hat on, which there's a time for that, to grieve, but I didn't want to spend the rest of my life being angry and sick. So I chose to believe this was my path. The time I'd spent suffering led to greater understanding, an understanding that I have now for my clients. I was able to reach out to other female firefighters who saw my story in the newspaper. One woman in Nogales ended up suing them, and they settled and fixed the problem there. She's still working there. I belong now to a Facebook page, a national group of female firefighters, and a lot of what's going on is a lot worse than what happened to me. It also happens in Canada, UK, anywhere women are allowed to be in these professions. In my current practice, I see people from all walks of life, but I also see firefighters, police, border patrol, and military people who understand how damaging these systems can be, and they want help. And that's really the justice I want. I want these people to get help. First the victims, and then the perpetrators too. There's no mental health education in these fields. They're actually really against it. On the fire department, there's no drug testing. And now the police department used to have a behavioral health section, and they did away with that. So in my opinion, this is why we are seeing the problems that we're seeing with police, military, fire. Sexual assault is rampant. Many people are trying to cope with a stressful job, and they're hurting and they're angry. And so they're hurting women who want to be of service. So the question is, how do we attain justice? Lawsuits aren't really the best answer. I just know that I had to file a lawsuit, or I probably was going to get fired, and then I wouldn't get my retirement. At 20 years as a firefighter, you get half your salary and your benefits for the rest of your life. I was the first woman to make it to retirement eligibility, and I had to file a lawsuit. They'd run off all the other women before me. A lot of the women, a lot of people don't have the money to do these lawsuits. I had a lot of time on before I had filed this lawsuit, and I always worked 2 or 3 jobs. Firefighters tend to do that. So I'd saved up money for an emergency. And again, like I said, the city really protects this environment. So I think part of the answer is to start trusting the victims. More and more, because of social media and the cameras we're allowed to carry everywhere, except when I tape recorded on the fire department and I caught captains lying about a situation with me, the city came out with a policy that if you're caught with a tape recorder, you can be fired. But more and more, because of cameras, we're able to see the truth. We've come a long way, but we still have far to go. We can't be complacent. But we don't have to be angry or negative either. We can choose to have faith in a world where things will get better and trust in the future generations. Did you know they predict that in 2020, again, America will be the greatest nation? That's because right now the baby boomers, who are an awesome generation, they are mentoring the millennials, which are the 30-somethings and younger. The millennials care about social justice, the earth, equality, and practicing compassion. And together focusing on that, I believe we can make it happen. That's why I picked a song, What a Wonderful World, to play for you later in the service. And I hope you'll all sing along with me. Thank you for being here today. and hearing my story.